Hello chess friends, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we shall have a look at a very interesting exception, I would call it, because generally we are taught that two connected passed pawns, one on the 6th, one on the 7th, or both on the 7th or 6th, are winning even against a rook, and which is actually true in most of the cases. But of course every rule in chess, every guideline in chess has an exception, and here is the exception of this one. Two connected passed pawns black has, but of course it's still not going to be enough because white has a miraculous way to make a draw over here. So it is white to play and draw the game. So just try to find the correct move for white. So go ahead, pause the video, and white to play win. All right, so let's have a look at the answer. By the way, if you have, of course, the threat is, let's say the rook moves, the threat is simply to go b2 b1 queen. That is dangerous. So the rook has to stay over here on the second rank. But what exactly is the move? Now, some of you might have guessed rook into c2. Seems like when it after king takes, then it's a stalemate. But of course, you don't have to take with the king. Pawn takes, and I can see the king has escape square, king d2, king d2, and the pawn promotes. This is in fact winning for black. So not rook into c2. So what's the move? And the point is you're gonna play rook to b2, and it's very beautiful the way white makes his move. You're moving around the pawns very smoothly. So rook b2 of course comes with a threat. We would like to grab this pawn. So the king has to move. There are two moves for the king. King d2, king d1. Let's have a look at king to d1. Of course king d2 is the accurate one. We'll have a look at that as well. But king d1 we can play. Now he's threatening to promote, and that's why we have to play rook to b1. That's a check, and this is a very interesting check. In fact, let's see what happens if he takes. Let's say promotes, takes here, here, and we just grab the pawn. It's an absolute draw, of course. So after this move, he goes to d2. Now there are several moves over here, but the best is, let's say rook g1. If he promotes, then we take, and that's a draw thanks to the pawn covering the square. That's a wonderful draw. If he doesn't take, he might, let's say, play king to c3 with the threat of pushing the pawn forward with b2 and then c1 or b1. It's pretty dangerous, but of course white has a very interesting trick. Rook g3 check, king d2, rook g2, king c3, and after repeating a few times, having fun with him, you can simply even play the move rook to c3. This is a wonderful move, and yeah, it's a rook sacrifice. Of course you can see how the rook is moving around the pawns without even capturing them, but right now there is a threat. Of course the threat is to go king to b2, in which case actually white would be winning the game. So what should black do? Well, in case he promotes, of course we know what happens. In that case, just rook takes, king takes is actually a stalemate thanks to the pawn and the king. So going back in this position, he can also take. Again a stalemate. Oh, pardon me for that. Let me just make the arrow correct. There you go. There's again a stalemate. So it turns out that after the move king to d1, just rook b1 and rook g1 is adequate to draw. The rook very beautifully moves around the pawn without capturing those pawns. Now let us have a look at king to d2. Of course this is one of the main lines. How should we play here? The point is white will now play rook to b1. It's very interesting. Again, you can't really capture. If you do, let's say you promote to c1, then just takes, and we know this is a very well-known stalemate. So of course not that. If he takes, then just king takes, king c3, king c1 opposition, and there you go. It's just a draw no matter what happens. All right, going back after the move rook to b1. Now he has several other moves. He can try king to c3. What do you play here? There's a beautiful move over here that white can play. Rook takes on b3 check. Again, sacrificing the rook cannot be captured. If king takes, it turns out that our king is stalemated. It's a wonderful, the pieces of the placement is really wonderful. It's really unique, and that's the reason this is an exception. It doesn't really occur all the time. In fact, most of the time the pawns are way stronger than a rook, but of course it's an exception. Rook into b3 is basically winning no matter what you do. For example, over here, and now there are several moves. Just pinning the guy is also good enough. Pin and capture if you want to draw. Yeah, just simply wins the game. So basically after the move rook into b3, the best is just to capture. If you go away, by the way, that is horrible because now you can go king b2 and take the pawn. Not really something you want. So basically this was the chess problem of the day, and it's really beautiful. The name of the composer was in Russian, so I was not able to understand it. I'm gonna still paste the name of the composer in the description. You can check it out and let me know what his name would be in English. So thank you for watching. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel. More videos are on the way. Until next time, see you guys.